Welcome to State Insurance USA Cares podcast, where we celebrate the heart of our communities. Each episode, we highlight local charities and nonprofits who are bringing hope, help, and healing to those who need it most. Get ready to be inspired by the amazing stories of people making a difference, because together, we care.
Well, hello, and thank you everyone for stopping by the State Insurance Cares podcast. This is Gail Langner. Today, my guest is Rebecca Clark with Advance the Faith. And of Advance the Faith is one of the nonprofits that we've donated to. We're honored to donate to. And so, Rebecca, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just so excited just to get to share about what we do at Advance the Faith. And we're so thankful for State Insurance.
Well, why don't you go ahead and tell people what is Advance the Faith? I didn't know either until we had a chance to chat.
Yeah, Advance the Faith is a local Christian nonprofit here in Southwest Florida, and we are on a mission to prepare foster youth for a life of faith and purpose. And so, of course, it's been a long history of being involved with foster care, both internationally and domestically here in Florida. But essentially, we support group homes for foster youth, especially foster youth that are about to age out of foster care. So we bring in programming that aids in that process.
You know, I never really thought about when they do age out until I looked on your website and actually was doing a little bit of research before we had this call. I was surprised to see the numbers of homeless afterwards and maybe even jail time, you know, that type of thing. I'm glad you're jumping in and helping at this juncture. What kind of things do you need to teach them, Rebecca?
Yeah. So when you think about it, when you're preparing to, turn 18 and go to college typically or start a job, you usually in a typical circumstance, you may have mom and dad to call when you're trying to figure out car insurance or,
Right.
what happens when I get a flat tire or scheduling an appointment. And so really we're trying to teach them those basic life skills.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what we teach is about financial literacy and budgeting, but even those soft skills like conflict resolution, navigating relationships. But really, we know we can't just teach them everything all at once. Really, we're wanting to connect them in relationship to safe, trusted adults that they feel comfortable calling, or even making sure that they can still be checking up on them after they're 18, so that when they run into those things, they have someone that they can ask.
Mm-hmm. So perhaps one of the things that you would also need besides funding would be volunteers, right?
Yes, absolutely. So we work with 5 group homes in the state of Florida, and we
Mm-hmm.
run various programming. We customize it to whatever the need is of the population at that home. And
Mm-hmm.
so, for instance, at one of the homes, we run a faith and fitness program every Saturday. So we bring a group of volunteers out to run workout stations, play basketball, and then we also incorporate a faith element. So people getting to share their story and just connecting with the boys there. But
Mm-hmm.
every home we're taking a different team. And we also take international trips as well that we take volunteers on. So yes, there's always a need for volunteers.
Okay. Internationally, where would you go normally?
Yes. So we work with homes in Haiti and the Bahamas. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
that's where we started. We started in the Bahamas. I say we expanded in reverse, being based in Florida. Um, right now, we are not able to send teams to Haiti, but we do send teams to the Bahamas. So we serve in Cat Island, Bahamas, and Nassau.
Okay.
And it's really neat because we actually follow along with the youth all the way through aging out as well. Our team has been working there since 2009. So we have young adults who were in
Sure.
Cat Island
Mhm.
years ago that are now in their 20s. We were just there last week, actually, and some of them have
Okay.
kids of their own now. So we're able to follow along with them as they are in Cat Island. And then when they're a little bit older, they go to Nassau and then they age out. And so
Okay.
we're working there.
Okay, awesome. Well, where the homes that are here in Southwest Florida, are they in Collier County, Lee County, with Charlotte?
Yes. So we work with an emergency youth shelter that is in Lee County. And then we work with 2 homes for boys in foster care in Charlotte County that each home can house up to 24 boys.
Okay.
So yes, and then we work with a home for teen girls in foster care that's in Polk County, and then another home for teen boys in foster care that's also in Polk County.
In Polk County. Okay. All right.
Mhm.
So, oh, geez, and I had it right at the tip of my tongue. I was going to ask you, how did you get involved?
Yeah, so I had gone to college in Polk County, actually,
Hmm.
and it's funny because the one of the homes that we work with in Polk County is run by my former professor, and so
Oh,
I had heard about him. I had heard him share about this home when I was in college, and even got to visit it with some friends to volunteer once. And and then I was in grad school through that same university, and
hmm.
I had done several different missions projects. I had done different missions internships overseas, and what was so interesting is there was always some kind of connection to children's homes or group homes, even if I wasn't directly working with the children's home. One of my
Hmm.
internships, actually, I was staying on property of a children's home, but that's not even why I was there. But
Oh,
I was able to gain a lot of understanding and experience of that world just by being there. And while I was finishing up grad school, I was looking for some part time work, and my now bosses were attending the same church as me, and we met. And they knew of some of the experiences that I had and what I was looking for. So they brought me on for a part time internship.
hmm.
And then eventually I came on full time. And so it was just kind of a really neat roundabout way of full circle of having all that connection to group homes and the foster care system kind of indirectly, and then now getting to work,
Hmm.
full time in that field.
Well, I would think that with your age at that time, I would think you would be
Mhm.
almost the perfect person to be relatable, wouldn't you think, to those in that situation?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think what can be really neat too, especially because a lot of our volunteers are college students.
Oh,
It's really
that's neat.
cool to see. Yeah, it's really cool to see that connection, and realize that both parties can learn from one another, right?
Mhm,
Um, Even those that we serve are able to kind of give a different perspective to those that didn't grow up in the foster care system.
right.
But once again, like you said, just be relatable, and learn from one another.
Mhm. That is incredible. I'm happy to hear that. Well, if our listeners today, what would be one thing that you would really like to get across to them? One thing that maybe they wouldn't know or ways they could help?
Yeah, I would say, when it comes to group homes, for those in foster care, there is a term that, I don't necessarily like, but it is a term that is used, that is called, those who've experienced multiple failed placements, which is usually the population that we are serving. It's the population we actually choose to serve because they are underserved. And we've had youth that have had over 40 placements in foster care by the time they're 17. And
Rebecca,
they're in this
40?
group.
40?
Yes.
That's
I just had
horrible.
somebody age out who had over 40 placements before he was 17 and it ended up in this group home. And, I just want people to understand that is not their fault, that there is trauma involved, that going into foster care in and of itself can be traumatic.
Of
And
course.
um, and that just the lack of trust that can develop after going through all these different placements, and that is why our heartstrings pull towards this population.
Mhm.
We don't know how long we'll get to be a part of their lives, although we make ourselves available for as much as they want us to be a part of their lives. But they are not in the group homes because of anything that they've done, or they're
Mhm.
not criminals. We try to remind
Right,
people, when you go into these homes, they're not in jail.
right.
This is their home, and we are here to be guests in their home. And so really just bringing that awareness to the dynamic that, many of them are coming into the home having had those experiences, but they are still teenagers, and
Right,
they want to have that relationship and connection. And we believe, of course, the hope of Christ can be a constant for them, that we want to have them have that relationship, no matter where
right,
life takes them. And so
right.
just bringing that awareness, I would say.
Mhm. Great. How would someone reach you? What's the best way to get in touch with you, Rebecca?
Yes, so they can go onto our website, advancethefaith.org, and my email is rebecca@advancethefaith.org,
Okay.
REBECCA, and
Mhm.
I'm the person that gets all of our volunteers started and connected, and helps you find the place that I think you would be most passionate about serving. And
Mhm.
so I
Yep.
would love it if people reached out.
Awesome. Well, that is great. Well, Rebecca Clark with Advance the Faith, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. And here we are the day after Memorial Day. I'm sure you've got a ton of things on your desk to do. So I won't keep you any longer, but I appreciate you taking the time to be with me today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us on State Insurance USA Cares. We hope today's story uplifted and inspired you. If you'd like to support or learn more about the incredible work happening in your community, visit stateinsuranceusa.com or call 239-567-9992. You can also visit CaboWaboGym.com. Until next time, be sure to let your sun shine and keep sharing good and positive vibes wherever the waves take you.